Hi everybody. Um, I am going to talk a little bit about the jungle today, just because that has been a very overdue update. Maybe not an update, but like a description of what happened at the jungle. Besides forgetting my iPhone password, it was actually a really fruitful time in terms of working together as students um, and building like a team, I guess, a team of servants working in this jungle area in Ecuador. So the place we went to is called Misawayi, and yeah, I don't know, it was a really cool invitation from uh, a school that serves the community there. Um, and it's school like missionaries that work there and help provide kids with an education and learn about the word and um, learn English, science, all the things. And it's really fun to go and, or that we got to go and be able to look at the classrooms and see a little bit of what they maybe get taught. But before getting to the jungle, we had to kind of prep because um, this trip was a part of our community development class and served as like short-term mission experience. So before going, we actually got assigned like groups of students. We had, I think, third graders, fourth graders, fifth graders, which ended up being more like sixth graders, fifth graders, fourth graders. But just in terms of like what they were being taught and like, um, yeah, that kind of thing, or maybe even ages. Um, but yeah, before going, our professors and our like our principal, I guess you could say, they all assigned us to a group of students, and we each split our groups into two. Half of our group was teaching science, and the other group was teaching math. In those groups, we were supposed to teach in English, even though the students' native language is Spanish. They're learning English, and so they've already been taught the subjects that we were going to teach them, but we were going to teach them in English. And like most students had already known the subjects, some of them didn't. But the fact that we were teaching them in English would help better their English skills, um, and some kind of um, like connection there, like knowing about a subject and then learning it in a different language. So yeah, we were entrusted with those tasks, and as a group, we had to come up with fun activities and games that would help teach them these skills, this knowledge, um, and yeah, just kind of like go through, maybe because we didn't meet them beforehand, we didn't know anything about them, and like go through what could go wrong. What if they don't actually know this subject or know this topic? How would we go about explaining it easier? Backup games in case the games we had planned didn't work. Um, Lots of things. I mean, I guess you could say um, a lot of what a teacher does, um, like in elementary school or something. That's what it felt like. I've never, yeah, I don't, what I can remember from elementary school. That's what it seemed like, but obviously it was a little bit harder because a lot of us are not studying to be teachers or work with kids necessarily, and so it was definitely a fun and challenging experience. But upon getting there and starting to apply these like lesson plans that we had planned, we were there for like, we were teaching them for 2 days, and then the other days we were just helping the community like do community projects, I guess you could say. But those 2 days, those mornings, actually, it was in the morning we would teach them, and then in the afternoon we would have lunch and then go change and get our work clothes on. sorry, and then we would go do the like heavy lifting or painting. Yeah, so um, I was with the third graders. I was with the youngest group, and they were just the cutest things. But the um, lessons we had planned, I mean, it was good, except I think that their English was not as great as we anticipated it maybe being, and so um, that caused us to kind of like take it back a lot of steps and be like, okay, let's start with basics, and um, it became more of like a Spanglish um, teaching time than like fully English, because really what we had been told was you're not allowed to speak Spanish unless absolutely necessary, and yeah, that's all to help the kids, right? Because we could speak English. But yeah, we get there, and our class did not know very much English at all, and so that was obviously troubling. Um, but yeah, it was okay. We were able to like explain something in English and then kind of repeat it in Spanish, and then like, did you get that? Yes, yes. Okay, no, no, yeah, whatever, and go on from there. Um, but yeah, that was the first 2 days. It was a lot of fun, like um, going through Bible stories with them at the start, and then having like little theater moments and like plays, and then seeing how well they adapted to the games and how competitive they got, which really wasn't none, but it was more like self-reflection and being like, I don't know enough English. Them thinking that they don't know enough English, and or don't know enough of the material, because they could tell you the answer to like the I was with the math group, and so they could tell us the answers to the math problems in Spanish, and they could write them in Spanish, but they couldn't do them in English, and so their frustration was just like, I know this, but I can't think as fast in English as I can in Spanish, and so just kind of sitting with them being like, that's totally okay, like if your classmate is putting up their board sooner than you are, like that's okay. You're at a different level than they are, and you're learning, and you're doing a really good job right where you're at. And so, just a lot of affirmation and I guess community building, relationship building for sure. Um, Having that space where they can trust us um, and lean into us as they need help and not feel like super insecure and like they can't come to us with questions. Um, and just seeing those relationships develop. But after that first day, we went home and we were like, okay, this is what needs to change. This is what kinks we need to fix, and um, things we need to get around and stuff like that. Um, and I think it was like that night or something. Everything time is so blurry here. So after that first day, they told us that a kid that hadn't been at the class in the class that day when we taught had gotten tested for COVID and had resulted positive, and so they had like a get together or like a hangout or something with other kids, and those kids had obviously been exposed, and those kids that had been exposed had been in our class, and so the school decided not to bring the third grade class back the next day, and all those students were told to stay in their homes. So it was a little bit sad because we had just barely started building their relationships with them. Um, we had just met them. We were so excited to try again and learn a little more, hopefully. And then we found out we couldn't do it anymore because COVID. And so that's just a reality. Like, we're so lucky that we even got to go to the jungle and um, spend such quality time with the community there and with each other, and even just be here in Ecuador is such a huge thing, um, considering all things, right? And so it was definitely heartbreaking, but it was, I don't know, it was okay. It worked out well because um, we got to split up and help out the other teams with the other groups and grades. So the fourth and fifth and 6th graders. Yeah, we just like split up and helped them like develop their lesson plans, although most of them didn't need help. Um, Mostly just like making sure the students are paying attention and staying engaged and learning. Um, but yeah, um, so that was like the teaching part of our jungle trip experience. And then obviously, as I mentioned before, in the afternoon, we would go get dressed, put on our working boots. There was these massive boots we had to wear. They were real like heavy and hot because it was hot, hot, hot in the jungle, like super humid. You were just sweating all the time. It's pretty bad, but it was pretty. It's good. It's a good change because Quito's not very hot and also not very cold. It's just like a mid weather, and there's really nothing super extreme weather-wise here, and so going to the jungle and experiencing like extreme hot weather, I was like, okay, constant reminders to drink water and stuff. But yeah, so we would change, and then everybody got assigned different tasks. I was on the painting team. So what we did was like paint the missionary houses and like touch up because I guess they hadn't been like um, what is it called? Like I guess touched up in a while, and so we just kind of reapplied the color that had been there before, but made it look nicer and new, and cleaned up the walls and stuff because you know like moss gets on there sometimes and all these random jungle insects too. So just kind of cleaning up the walls and covering them again with fresh paint. And yeah, that's pretty much what our what my group's task was. It took quite a while. Even after we were done at the jungle, we still hadn't finished completely. We just had a few areas to cover up, but we didn't get to them, unfortunately. There was also some like organization of their storage spaces, and so they had a lot of like broken windows or like glass doors that had been like destroyed, not destroyed, but like ripped and broken, and so they could be either repaired or thrown away, but I think they were going to throw them away or maybe like reuse them. And taking things out of the storage space and bringing them out on like those wheelbarrow things and taking them down and putting them in piles. And so just kind of like organizing things. We had another team that was like sanding bookshelves and furniture, and so there's like tons of like sand dust or whatever it's called all over the place. Um, yeah, it's like a lot of what could have seemed like minimal tasks, and that's what a little bit of what we talked about in our community development class, because um, as like a reflection or a debrief, I guess, had to kind of um, like think back and think about like what we've learned in our community development class and what we saw that worked well and what we saw that didn't work well and how we felt on the trip, and how students may have felt. I didn't know it was a service trip. I don't know if other of my classmates knew, but I didn't know until I like read a sheet that said short-term mission trip, and I was like, what? It's like, oh, this is what we're doing. Um, but yeah, just kind of looking at it in terms of like what a short-term mission trip is and trying to analyze like was what we did actually that what um yeah, and just looking at what we did there and seeing does that correlate, or how does that um resemble a short-term mission trip, or how does it um what worked and what didn't in terms of what a mission trip should be, right? And so yeah, so we had a good chance to talk about like those tasks because I think a lot of our classmates felt like I don't really know what we did there. They're like that's stuff they could have done themselves. Kind of just felt like we went to like play around and yeah, just just feel useful. And it was really funny for me to hear that because it totally makes sense, right? Like, I remember thinking the same thing not that long ago. Like, I'm not really sure what I did there. Um, but then thinking about it in a different way, right? Like, thinking about the relationships we were able to build while there and the fact that, for example, in our section where we had to paint houses, I constantly just felt like, oh man, we are not doing this right. First of all, I don't know how to paint well. I mean, I could do like okay, but not like they can. They've been doing this forever, right? And so the comparison is like pretty drastic. And just like thinking back and thinking like my dad would like be so upset if I was the one helping him. The gentlemen that were helping us, they would come up there's like a platform you step on to paint high things that I can't think of what the name is anymore. A scaffold? I don't know. Probably wrong. Anyway, um, yeah, and so they'd climb up it and be like, we'd be like, is this okay? And they'd be like, this needs to be painted way more, like you need to put more paint on there. So we'd put more paint on there, we'd cover it, and then we'd ask them again, they'd climb back up, they'd look at it and be like, here, hand me the brush, and then they'd go through it, be like, yeah, it's good, but it just needed like some extra layers or I don't know what, like evening out or something like that. But yeah, just thinking about that and thinking about like they can totally do this, and they would do it so fast. Anything that they would help us with, they would get done like half as fast as we did, and I just feel like yeah, they definitely don't need us. But thinking about um, like maybe what this did for them, like in that sense, like that was first of all super kind and such great patience that they had with us to allow us to help them um, and be kind of useful, even if it's just carrying tools, like helping them clean out certain like storage spaces or something may not feel like a ton on our behalf, but realistically, we're not there to like save anyone's life or um, like change the world in a week, right? Like we're there to be a part of something that's already existing, and if that means like providing support in holding a tool while they do all the work, then that's what it is, right? And so for me, it was like so humbling to see how the men that had this experience painting houses were allowing us the space to learn how to paint and give them help and even just like build relationship with us in conversation or yeah, just honestly like the fact that they were able to, I don't know if this is the right word or words, but like practice their patience and practice um I guess um I don't know, they're how would you say, like they're allowing us to be a part of it. It's not the other way around, right? Like you know who the expert is in in that sense. You know that they can do it better, but I don't know. It was like an allowing of something um for the greater good, I guess, cuz a lot of good came from that in terms of like long-term relationships or just like honestly humbling ourselves too, because I think a large majority of the students came back home and were like, what was that? Like, that was ridiculous or like pointless or just like some kind of dissatisfaction with the amount of work that was done. And that's not uncommon, but it's also um, not not beneficial. If that makes sense. It's not like it's not useless. It does serve a purpose, and like we may not see it, but there is something there, and God does not allow us opportunities to show up and be present for nothing. He uses every single opportunity, every single moment for the better, for good. And so maybe it wasn't something visible, but maybe one of our students' lives was changed by being there. Maybe they realized that this is what they want to do. In talking with the missionaries or in seeing what life is like there, maybe they now know that they want to be an ESOL teacher, like so many things could have come from that. And so, I don't know, I think it was just a really good experience to just be honored, so greatly honored by being able to teach students, even if it was just one day. Um, and I don't know, it's super, super humbling. Like, I have never taught like that. Um, and I don't think a lot of us have, and it's so much pressure because we're the ones leading the classes. And I think it's just super humbling to see, like, wow, I really am not super equipped for this. I'm not the expert, but I am playing a part, like I said, in something that is already happening. Those kids are already being taught, but we're just a tiny little piece in that whole um, puzzle, I guess. And same with the service projects. Doesn't seem like we did much, but honestly, one of the leaders was like, whatever work you put in, it may not seem like much, but that's like 4 hours or like however many hours of work that our volunteers don't have to do now, because we were able to go and help. And so it's a little bit of help, but it's something, right? And I don't know, it just, you show up and you do the work and you pray, because ultimately it's not up to you to do any kind of miracle work, right? It's greater than that, it's greater than us. And so, I don't know, it was a really, really good experience. Super awesome to see um, what the jungle looks like here in Ecuador, to see what the people live like, honestly, to see the struggles that they face too. The students, a lot of them, they need funding to go to school. Some of them stop going to school because their parents can't pay the fees, and they're adjustable fees too. They're like catered to family needs, catered to how much they work or how much they're able to pay. It's not just like this huge sum of money that is totally unobtainable. They try to make it available for the students and have the families be a part of their students' education by giving also. And um, yeah, and even then it's hard because a lot of people don't work or they run out of work because COVID or other things. Families have issues, addictions, all sorts of things. And so it's super humbling, eye-opening, um, and heart-wrenching too, to see that some students live right there and other students have to take a boat to get to school every day and then take a bus and all these things. It's like a whole deal. Um, but yeah, if we hadn't gone, we wouldn't have gotten to know all that. We wouldn't have gotten to see a different way of life, experience a different community. Um, and yeah, it's just super cool. Met lots of cool monkeys. Beautiful, beautiful monkeys I wanted to bring home. And yeah. So that, I guess, is that, I think that pretty much encapsulates the jungle experience in terms of the specifics of what we did and what we learned. And um, yeah, so I hope if you watch this, I hope it's useful, or maybe not useful, but just interesting, or um, I don't know, I hope something comes out of it. But yeah, thank you for watching, for listening, and I'll be updating also on life thus far soon, today, in the next video. Okay, bye!